Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome and thanks for being here. Happy Sunday. Chiefs, Dolphins, football in Germany. Presently, you can see I'm a little giddy. I'm excited. I got my Chiefs stuff on. It's halftime. We're up 21-0. Oh, gotta love Sunday morning football. So, two card shows this weekend. Two card shows, 2 days, two deals, 8 hours of driving. Let's jump right in. Friday's drive to the Shriners Auditorium was an easy drive. I wasn't expecting too much traffic on the way in. I left around 10. I was expecting a 2-hour ride. Ended up being an hour and 40 minutes door to door. Was able to park really close to the front door, so that was always good. The line to get in was very long. And I was surprised. I mean, I waited like 25 minutes to get in. You had to buy a ticket, go to the little ticket box and buy a ticket before you could go into the show. And probably the line was that long because it wasn't that crowded on Friday. I think the line was that long because there was only 2 people selling tickets to get in. But it wasn't bad. It was a nice day. It could have been worse. It could have been raining. Could have been cold, windy, whatever. It was sunny. It was nice. It was fine. I got in. I immediately saw my guy Joe at Premier Sports Cards and Memorabilia. He's on Instagram at Premier Sports RI. Hung out, chopped it up with him and his son for a little bit. Checked out what he had in his cases. Being right inside the front door and being like, at this point, like 12:15, right? 12:20, maybe 12:30. I'm not sure. Like everybody coming through the door. So we tried to hold conversation, but I told them, look, I'm going to roll. I'm going to run around, look at everything, and I'll stop back on the way out. Because what I wanted to do, because I figured everybody, I mean, it's like my theory at Disney World, right? When you go in, everybody either goes left to the right, and you're going to start at whatever is there first. When I get in the front door, when I go in, I like just to head straight to the back and work my way back to the front because I don't, most people aren't going to be there. So it was easier for me to go to the back and work my way the other direction because there was just not that many people back there. I talked about, I want to say first, before I explain my experience of the show itself, I want to say I talk about know the show, right? Know the show. You always hear me say that, know the show. And I traveled to this show last April. More for the bigger picture of me going to that show last April was to meet Mike Tyson. I mean, I would certainly drive a couple hours to a show that I know is going to be a good show. I would drive 3 or 4. I've driven to the Philly show. As long as I know the show is going to be a good show, I don't mind driving. And I went to this show more, not that I knew the show because I'd never been there, but I wanted to meet Mike Tyson. And at that show last April, I ended up spending more money at that show than any other show I attended. Any other show, hands down, I spent more money at that show. I got so many great deals at that show. This time I'm going back for the show, right? No guests, no meetups, no meet and greets, nothing being signed. I'm going for the show itself. And this was not the same show as April. Not even close to the same show as April. And I was told, I mean, a few people, they messaged me and said, hey, this is a different promoter. And if you like the April show, you're going to love this fall show, this November show there. And I was told that by a bunch of people, a lot of people messaging me. So my expectations for the show were even higher. Right. And all of a sudden I'm saying I spent more money at this show in April. I'm willing to get in the car and spend, 4 or 5 hours round trip to go back to this show. So preparing for this show, I'm bringing more cash. I'm bringing my big stuff, right? I can't lie. I was expecting a massive day, just a massive day with big moves, turning over inventory, trading up, trading down. I expected I was going to take this episode and break it into 2 episodes, maybe even 3 episodes, right? Of all the deals and the things that were going to happen, the things that we're going to do with this show. Um, these were all my thoughts in my mind getting ready for this show Thursday night and really all week, mentally just preparing for the show all week and putting, the last episode was what? Preparing for the Shriners. So not only am I mentally preparing for the show, I'm mentally during the week preparing to, put out an episode on what I'm doing. So there's all this preparation going on in my mind. I get there on Friday and I realize pretty quickly this was going to be mostly a vintage show. Vintage baseball, vintage hockey, even vintage football at this show. A lot of the dealers that I know and I've seen before and I've talked to or I just recognize, I've seen a lot of these guys at other shows like the Terrytown show, the East Coast National, Hofstra. Like a lot of these guys are at these shows that I set up at south of me. And here I am traveling, a few hours to a show north of me, and I'm seeing a lot of these same dealers. So I know, I mean, these guys are big dealers, so they're going to set up at the bigger shows as well. But there was just a ton of vintage. All great people with all great vintage inventory. Unfortunately, I don't do vintage, right? So I can't for what I do, I can't say, "Hey, this was a great show for me," because it really wasn't. This show for me was not a great show. I talked to the dealers I knew, I chopped it up with them, because I see them all the time, but my lane is not in the vintage, and they know that. They know me. They know what I sell. They see what I sell at my table, and they know what I'm buying. And I walk right by these vintage tables because I don't know enough about vintage. And I could just tell you a little quick thing from this show that there was so much vintage at the show, I was almost considering buying a vintage card. I mean, literally, I was almost considering about buying a vintage card, and I saw one that I may have purchased. I thought maybe the price was right, and I knew the dealer, and we talked about it, and I took a picture of it, and I sent it to my buddy Rob, sports card therapist. I'm like, "Hey, what do you," and immediately he's like, "This is off centered. It doesn't have there's the eye appeal is low on." I mean, there was everything wrong with this card. And I said, "See, this is why I don't do vintage, because I don't know any of this stuff. I could certainly learn about this stuff, but it's just not my lane. It's not what I'm doing. I think I'm doing pretty well in the lanes that I'm in, and I'm having fun doing it. So why not just stay in those lanes, what I'm doing?" I did see some modern stuff. There, of course, there's going to be modern stuff there. Uh, and I was shaking my head a little bit at the pricing of the modern stuff. I know it's Friday, right? I know the doors just open. And who knows, maybe these stickers, the prices have been on these cards for a few months and nobody, wants to turn them over. Um, but on a good amount of these cards, they were well over comps. And this is the way I look at it because I'm a dealer myself, and I think it's just common sense, right? Reprice your stuff before every show. And if you don't want to sell it, if you don't want to sell the stuff, maybe not even put a price on it. I mean, why if I had a card I didn't wanna sell and I knew the comp on it was $1,000, why would I put a $2,500 price tag or a $2,200 price tag on it? Because I think it just makes me look bad. That's just and I'm not, putting anyone else down because everybody does what they wanna do. They have their own way. There's no set of rules when you set up as a dealer. But for me, right, I just think you know, putting it out there that maybe I'm not a good dealer or I'm not. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know how to word that, but I'm just telling you, it's not what I would do. And so when I go and I'm looking at and I look in and I know comps on a card is $1,500 or $2,000, and you're asking $3,000, we're probably not even going to have a conversation. Even if it's a card I'm looking for, we're not even going to have a conversation because you're so far, you know, there's going to have to be an awful lot of conversation for us to have for this card to go around comps. And I probably understand it's probably not going to go around comps. So I'm not going to waste your time or my time, right? Going up to that. So these tables, I look at, hey, how's it going? I look at the cards, I see the prices, I shake my head. A lot of times I move on. Um, low key, and I've talked about this. I've been looking for a Connor McDavid, a Young Guns PSA 10. Now, most people tell me, if you're going to get a Connor McDavid, don't get the Young Guns, get this, get that. Like all these other cards are so much better. I kind of like the Young Gun, so I'm always keeping my eye out on a Young Gun. And if I see them at a show, I try to do a little bit of trade and cash. I'm not going to go out and put all cash down to buy a card like that. But if I can, work out a trade with cash, something like that, and get a deal done, I'd be happy to get it done. So I know I'm always looking. Last public sales on that card, 2,400, 2,500, under $2,600 anyways. I inquired at 2 different tables that had, and not only one guy had like 4 or 5 of these stacked up, on top of each other. And I said, "Hey, how much for the McDavid, the Young Guns, the PS10?" One guy that had the stack of them, $3,700. Now we're talking 24 to 26. That's over $1,000 over what the last public sale. One guy who had one in his case said 5K. And I said, is that numbered? He said, no, that's just the regular Young Guns. I said, just the regular Young Guns, 5K. And he goes, yep. I'm like, okay, thanks. At least the guy at 3,700, when I asked, he said to me, and he probably saw the look on my face when he said 3,700. He says, yeah, I know, I'm over. He says, I'm way underwater on these cards and probably just going to hold them for now. I respect that. Nothing wrong with being honest. We always talk about being a dealer for high on something. Just say, hey, I'm high on something. I know another guy who said, like, I saw this weekend at another show, and I'm going to get to that show later. But I said, hey, how much I pointed out a card, and he said, nah, more than you want to spend. He said, the market is just not good right now. And I understand that, but at least it's honest, right? At least it's somebody being honest, and we don't have to, go back and forth and say, oh, will you take this or with that? Or, I'm going to pull my phone out and I'm going to show you what the last comps are. Right. I mean, because, as a dealer and as like we've all been there, right? We've all been there on both sides. I'm doing this from both sides of the table. So I'm on one side of the table. Like there's nothing more that I want to do to pull my phone out and say, $3,700. Are you kidding me? Look, the last sale on this thing was 2,400. But I don't think that's going to make a difference. And I think maybe it's going to, cause a little friction between the two of us at this table. So why do that? Why put any negativity at a car? That's the way I look at it. I mean, I'm not going to be spending over comps. I would want to get it at or under, right? So, we're that far away. Smile. All right, man. Hey, good luck today. Have a good day. I hope you have a great weekend. I mean, that's the way to do it. I mean, there's no sense, bringing any friction or negativity into it because you know where it's going to end. If you've done this enough times, you know where that's going to end. There were some dealers there with some really great high-end football cards, but the best, and this was the depressing part, the best football cards I saw, they were with the auction companies. They were in their cases, all the different companies that are looking to get people to consign with them, to leave their card with them, to consign with them. Those had some of the best. And a lot of people are coming up. They're like, yeah, I mean, is there a price on that? Like, can we buy that card? And they're like, no, it's on auction. It's online. And they were happy that they had a computer set up to show you, hey, this is what the current bid is on it. You can certainly go bid on it. It's a 7-day, a 10-day, or whatever, whenever it's coming up. But those were the cars that I would have been looking for to buy at a show like this, and looking to get a much better deal than I'm probably gonna get at an online auction, right? And there's a lot of other fees and taxes and shipping and a lot of things involved in that. And that's why we like the card shows, right? We get in there, we can avoid a lot of those things. Um, but these cards were not for sale at the show. Saw a lot of modern baseball there too. Another lane I have a little knowledge in. And I was surprised because I mean, I kind of just know the markets and how they go. And I know, the World Series, just finished. I understand it just finished, but there was still just a ton of baseball in there. And I know, in the previous years, like with football after the Super Bowl, you don't see that much football out there. Maybe just the people who, you know, like last year when Chiefs win the Super Bowl, right? You'll see a bunch of Mahomes stuff out there, because he, obviously just won another Super Bowl. Some of the Jalen Hurts stuff was out there. So, you saw like a handfuls pockets here and there, but there was definitely a lot of baseball out there, a lot of modern baseball in cases out there. Another thing I saw and I'm starting to see an awful lot of is just a ton of these low end slabs. Those 10, 20, 30, $40, $50, just these low end base football, these PSA graded slabs. Probably a ton of cards that probably should have never been graded, or nobody really had any business grading them, but they did. But not just here or there, but just tons and tons of low end football slabs, PSA slabs. And I guess with the deals going on at with PSA, you know we I talked about this, right? This whole grading thing, and it's affordable to grade the cards now, but I'm not sure where the money is made just grading base cards, like a Prism quarterback, just a base card, even the 10 version of it, right? People are selling for $15. Now I know the grading, the grading has, it is $15, right? That's where it came at its lowest. So I'm not sure what was graded that would have made up for selling this at its actual grading price. Or at one point, maybe they were selling for $25 or $30 and it made sense. But now it's at a point where the value has come down so much, people are just trying to liquidate. They're like, you know what, just take it. I'm going to get what I can get for it now and just take it away. But just a ton of those lower end slabs, and I don't know. It's you see a lot of them out there too, and I'm not sure, if whoever, I don't want to say hot potato, but I don't know whoever stuck with these things at the end if it was a good deal or not, because I don't know many people who want to buy graded base cards. I have boxes and boxes and boxes of base cards here. Um, from ripping cards from 2021, 22, 23 that are all base football, hockey. I even have baseball here. Like if somebody was really interested in buying these cards, or I would certainly be selling them, but I think it would be a lot of work trying to put these out there to sell them. I just don't think people would really be interested in buying them. I mean, if you know something I don't, please let me know, because I'd love to sell all these you know, base cards that I have from all these boxes that I ripped open, but I just don't see a market out there for these cards right now. Uh, so for me, I'm going to say for me, because of the collector I am and what I was looking for and what my expectations were, a bit of a disappointing day. It was a long drive. Um, it was 3 hours there. I spent 3 hours there. I did 2 laps. I talked to a ton of people. At the end of the day, I only spent $15 on the admission, and people were complaining about that in line. Somebody was like, "Oh, admission is $5." I said, "$5?" I said, "I don't think it's $5, not on a Friday, not on the first day." I said, "I think it's more than that." And then people were finding out it was $15, like, "Oh my god, remember we used to pay $5 to get in here?" I thought $15 was reasonable to get into get into a card show. I mean, on a show that size, I thought $15 is very reasonable to get in. I paid more to get into to shows for a single day. But that was it. It was just the $15 is all I spent. And unfortunately, leaving at 3:30, I thought I was going to beat the traffic. I was hoping to leave at 3, and it ended up I went back and I met back up with my guy Joe, and I would talk to him for a while. And by the time I looked at my watch, I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. But I left at 3:30. The drive home took me 3.5 hours. Yeah, yikes. And there was no shortage of some curse words that day. Just the traffic the whole way home was just unbelievable. But I made it home safe, and right, that's what counts. It was another day. I mean, it can't be a bad day going to a card show and hanging out with. I mean, even if the show was not what I expected, and I wasn't able to find the things that I was looking for at the show, just being at a card show, seeing the people there, right? How bad could it be? The drive was the worst part of the whole day. So Saturday morning, I regroup, back in the car, off to Enfield. I met my guy Jordan at Zips Cards up there. He had originally planned on going up to Shriners, but he changed his mind last minute and decided he was going to do the Enfield show instead. So I met him up there. I know most of the dealers there. I enjoy hanging out with those dealers as well and chopping it up, talking cards, state of the hobby, what's next for shows, who's setting up where. Here in New England in 2 weeks when I'm setting up at Gillette, there's 3 shows, and that's kind of all the buzz right now. There's the Gillette Stadium show, there's the Mohegan Sun show, and there's a Quincy, Massachusetts show. And it's people complaining like, how could they do this? How could everybody have, shows all on the same weekend? But people are going to attend. People are going to be sad. Talk to people who are going to be setting up, they have tables at 2 shows, right? Because they, two of the promoters that they feel like they can't say no. And if they do, they'll lose their spot next time. So they're paying for the table. They're going to put somebody at that table to set up for them. And I think that puts a lot of pressure, on the dealers for that, to say, hey, are you going to be loyal to me, or are you going to be loyal to them, or something like that? So I know there's a lot of that between the Quincy and the Gillette show. I've talked to at least 4 or 5 people that have tables at both and do not want to get on the bad side of either promoter. And both promoters think that's the only show they're doing. So that's a situation that puts the dealers in. And then you have to remember, you're going to have all these people. Are people going to travel from show to show all weekend, or are they going to be sticking in one area? So I guess we're going to find out. But anyways, fun to hang out and talk with all these people. I had a meeting set up with a guy who does hockey up there. I talked about this. He was looking for raw young guns. So I brought my box, let him go through it. He only found a few out of it, which I knew there was nothing really that high end in there. But obviously want to let him go through and hope he can find something. But while I was there, another kid came up to his table looking to sell Quinn Hughes Young Guns PSA 10. Said he was asking 120, and I know I just comped that card hours earlier at 150. So the kid wanted 120, which was a good deal. I mean, I was interested, but I didn't want to overstep, because here I am at another dealer's table, and the other dealer's talking to him, and he said, "Oh, do you want to trade?" And the kid's like, "No, I just want some cash." He said, "Hey, can you come back after I, come back, give me like half an hour, or whatever. Let me get a few sales. But I'm definitely interested in the card." So the kid left. So after I was done with him, I went to see my other, I'll call them my fellow hockey dealers, at Gordy Cards and at Sabres Hockey 22. A couple guys there I always see up there. Sean was talking to the kid with the with the card, and he was offering it to him, and Sean wasn't interested, so he turned to me and he said, "Are you interested?" And I'm like, "Wow." I thought to myself, "This could not work out any better," right? And I immediately bought the card because I just knew it was a good deal. I said, "Perfect, sold." So I bought the card, tossed it in my case, and I thought to myself, "Wow, first pickup of the weekend." That was my all weekend. That was my first pickup of the weekend, and 2 shows. That was my first pickup. Um, I did have a second pickup at the Enfield show. Actually, you know what? For those of you, I should hold this up. For those of you on YouTube, I'll show you the Quinn Hughes card. Yeah, and he's a good pickup right now. With the points he's putting up right now, he's been hot. Him and his brother. So another card I picked up. So I want to say it was probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, at the Hofstra show. I made a trade for this Brittany Griner card. It's a 2016 Topps U.S. Olympic team. Um, it is Olympic pedigree. So this card here, numbered to 50, it's a BGS 910. And I'll just remind you of the card. It's an autograph. And I've had that card for a while, and I've never seen another one. And I was at this show, and I saw a raw one, which I'll hold up. Somebody had in their case. And I said, "You know what? I've never seen a second one of these cards." Now I know I've seen them online before. And he was probably asking a little too much for the card, but I was still okay. We worked out a deal. I was still okay to get it for the price that I got it for. Because this card here, I will grade, right? And I'll have it ready for the 2024 Summer Olympics. It may be a card, with that Olympics coming up, especially with the women's sport, with soccer and basketball and things like that. It may be a card that it could sell. It'd be nice to have in my case next summer. I see. I'm always already looking ahead to the summer, to what's happening down the road. But I bring that up because I talked about wanting to find inventory that I can be putting in my case December, January, February, and I really haven't found any. I have a lot of hockey cards, and people have been interested in the hockey cards, and the prices have been way up on these hockey cards. But I'm like, if I can just hold out to the Gillette show, and then from the Gillette show on, because I just want to have decent inventory in my case for the Gillette show. And I talked about I'm doing that Saturday Gillette show, and then I'm heading to Mohegan. I'm not setting up at Mohegan Sunday, but I'm going to walk the Mohegan show on Sunday. But after that, I really don't have, I shouldn't say I don't have any plans to set up, because I'm making arrangements now with my 2 friends, Wolfpack members, and Crosstown Cardboard podcasters, Craig and Carmine. I'm making arrangements now to go to Culture Collision in January. The 3 of us are going to plan a trip down there in January. So we're going to get a table down there. We're going to set up down there. So we're just put this all together, and I'm getting excited for this. So that after the Gillette show, I have a December Laz show, second Saturday of December, and the only other show I'll have planned now would be the end of January, for the Culture Collision show. But I need inventory, right? I can't say I'm going to go set up if I really don't have inventory, and especially like a Culture Collision. I can't be bringing dollar boxes or singles boxes, because I'm going to be flying down there. So I need to have slab inventory. So I'm going to keep looking, keep trying to find, that inventory. And, I understand where the market's at. I know prices are coming down on things. I know people are, they I understand people are like, okay, the market's down a little bit. Do I sell this card? Do I panic sell immediately and let this card go? Or do I wait and hold out, and maybe a few weeks it'll bounce back up, it'll come back up? I mean, I understand all these thoughts, but at some point it's got to make sense for me to buy some inventory I could profit from setting up at a show. At some point, there has to come a time where it's the price point is going to make sense. I will be traveling this week, going to see my daughter, my son-in-law, and my granddaughters down in North Carolina. So while I'm there this weekend at the Raleigh Fairgrounds, they have the sports card and collectibles show. So I plan on Saturday going over, Saturday morning, I plan on going over hitting that show. So if anybody's there listening, any listeners that you're set up at that show or you're going to be at that show, just shoot me a message. Let me know. I'll try to meet up. If you're a dealer, I'll try to come by and see you. I'm looking forward to that one. I don't have a lot of time on Saturday, so it's definitely going to be just a short morning trip. But if you're going to be there or you have a table, definitely let me know. This week's episode will drop a little early because I'm leaving Wednesday to head down there. So it's probably going to drop Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning. So just a little program note on that. That's it. That's all I have for you. I am going to go back. Hopefully my Chiefs are going to stay in command of this game and win it easily over there in Germany. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.